Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Motivational Monday. My name is Kira. I am your host, and as per usual, I am so excited to be here with you today. Today's conversation is all about how to step into your leadership as a woman, and it's a really exciting and powerful conversation. Obviously, we are in Women's History Month on a national level, and on the Life Guides level, we are in our Women's Wellbeing Month. And I think women stepping into their empowerment, women stepping into their leadership matters a lot. And it's a very important topic of conversation. I say all of this to say that we do not forget about men in this conversation. Men also matter too. So, the point of this conversation isn't only to teach women how to step into their leadership, but hopefully to give men a fresh perspective into what it is like to be a woman. There are lots of ways that we don't understand how our experiences are different because we're the main character of our own story. So, hearing other people's stories, learning, being educated, having an open mind is incredibly important. And on top of that, we also haven't forgotten about men because I really believe in equality. I believe that women are uniquely amazing. I believe that men are uniquely amazing. I think women have a unique set of struggles. I think men have a unique set of struggles. So this month is Women's Wellbeing Month, but in June we are doing Men's Wellbeing Month as well. So the intention is for hopefully a wide array of the population to be here to get this insight, to receive this wisdom, and to start thinking about the other half of our population, hopefully in a new, refreshing, and empowered way. So, I'm very excited for today's conversation. We are diving in today with Carolyn. She is one of our guides here at Life Guides, and her superpower is that she knows that we all carry our own answers. She listens deeply and helps others access their deepest thoughts and desires to illuminate those answers and guide each individual on their unique journey. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for being here. I am so excited to have this conversation with you. Can you give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself and why this conversation matters to you?
Of course. Hi, Kira. I am an ICF certified professional coach and life guide. I entered the workforce in the 1970s. So I've had decades of experience now as a woman in the workplace. I started working as a college professor. I was assistant to a mayor for a fairly large city in San Diego area. I was a TV commercial actress, a member of SAG and AFTRA. I worked as a liaison. I worked for the Connect program for the University of California, San Diego, as a liaison, political consultant for biotech companies, the university, and spent a lot of time in congressional offices and senatorial offices on the Hill, which is an extremely fun job. I've been heavily involved in volunteer organizations. I worked as a partnerships director for the Office of the Governor in California for a while with a program that was designed to help people who were uh, in danger of natural disasters. I'm also a wife, mother, caregiver for 3 decades, housekeeper and cook.
What a wonderful woman we have here on today's conversation. And I'm really excited specifically to have Carolyn here for this conversation because it's really interesting. Entered the workplace in the 70s, and in 1972 is when we first had the equal rights laws passed, where women could finally be represented and experienced equally to men in the workplace. So it's really interesting to have such a wealth of experience from you, Carolyn, for today's conversation, because I think the evolution over all of these decades is really cool. So we'll hear about that a little bit in today's conversation. And for us, we want this always to be conversation of empowerment. So women stepping into their leadership roles is a crucial element to the society that we live in. That's why these equal rights laws ended up being passed because women bring a unique set of skills to the workplace. We operate differently than men. We literally talked last week about how our brains are physically different than men's brains. So we have a higher capacity for certain things where men have a higher capacity for different things. Our leadership does shape society, especially when half of the society is women. So having women in these leadership roles is important. So that's a part of why having this conversation hopefully serves as a launch pad for you all as women to step into your leadership. And maybe the men who are on this call, maybe it serves as a launch pad to look at the women in your life and start empowering them. Start seeing their greatness before they can see their greatness. Because some of my favorite mentors have actually been men, and they were men who saw what I was capable of before I was capable of it. So men play a crucial role also in expanding women into their leadership. So there's one thing that I wanted to open up this conversation with as the real data of why this is important and the differences that women experience in society that is very real. So there is a day in America called Equal Pay Day that symbolizes how far into the year women must work to earn what men earned in the previous year. So that means from January 1st to December 31st is a man's year in regards to pay. A women's year in regards to pay to earn the same amount of money in the same role typically falls on a Tuesday in March or April. So, what does that mean? That means that it takes women 3 to 4 months extra to earn the same amount of money that it takes a man to earn in 12 months. So in 2025, this date was March 25th. I believe in 2020 it was like March 5th, and I think this year it's March 26th or 27th. So we're seeing that over time, that gap is actually getting wider. And this highlights that women on average earn roughly about 83 to 85% of what men make, with deeper disparities, of course, for women of color and other populations that are not as represented in our society. So, there's one other piece of data that I wanted to share. So, specific groups have later equal pay days due to the wider gaps as well. So, compared with a white man's earnings, Black women earn roughly 66 cents to every dollar that a man makes. A Latina woman earns 58 cents to every dollar that a man makes, and a Native woman earns 58 cents on the dollar as well. So this gap is driven by not only gender discrimination, but it's also driven by ethnic discrimination and even indigenous discrimination. So these are just things to start to consider and think about as we get into what this conversation of leadership means. And the equal pay days for Asian American women is in late April. White women is usually early April, end of March. LGBTQIA plus women is in June. Black women is usually late July, early August. Women's equal pay day or mom's equal pay day is in September. That means it takes a mom 21 months to earn what it takes a stereotypical white man to earn in 12 months. Native American women are September and October, and Latina women are November. So we give all this data not to give doom on the situation, but just to say that all of this is real. These are real demographics that we're experiencing right here, right now, and it's very easy to not acknowledge it. But I think as women, we all feel that there is a difference and there is a change that we can bring about to bring more of that fairness into our world. And it starts with women coming into their leadership and starting to change some of what we see in the world. So, Carolyn, with all of those statistics and all of those factors I just brought into the conversation, as we're talking about women stepping into their leadership and the importance of it, what are some of those intrinsic values or talents that women bring into the workplace?
I want to just give a moment for everyone just to take a pause at and just consider the statistics that Carrie just gave us. These are real, this is a real thing. And especially when you think of moms who may be single moms, who are mom and dad, they have to provide everything. It makes a difference. So I think when we're considering our unique talents, women, because of our experience, because of our biology, have some very interesting perspectives. They're holistic perspectives to bring to the workplace. Along with that, we bring a lot of education, a lot of experience. We bring we bring the ability to collaborate in a way that many men are good collaborators. I've found through the years women excel at collaboration. We have an ability to take a big picture view of the situation. And I've found in the women I work with, it's okay, let's do the job. It's almost women are able to work backwards. This is the goal. How do we get there? And there is not a lot of room with women. It's like, okay, these are the steps. I find that women are uniquely able to collaborate and work together without we can do this with less friction sometimes than men because our intent is that the job be done well and that we get there quickly. So I think that one another thing about women is we have an ability to be very authentic. We are juggling so many balls, and we understand that our cohorts, men and women, are juggling too. But women with children, with elderly parents, with other situations in our lives that require our attention, I remember feeling like I was just being ripped in half. If I wasn't with my children, then or with my parents who I was taking care of, then I should have been with my children. And if I was with my children, I should have been with my mom and dad. So this balancing that we have been doing for decades gives us a very unique ability, I think, to work together and just get it done.
I agree. I think, this is one of the things we will talk about during Men's Wellbeing Month as well, is how men have been significantly conditioned to do it and do it right. And women have been conditioned that way as well. But I think even in the brain science, women are more likely to collaborate and seek out support and seek out a community and seek out that guidance. Men are not, and it's not that men don't have that ability, it's that men haven't been taught that. So what I've seen in the workplace is sometimes there's this need to just like bulldoze through things and get things done versus like we can all collaborate and create something, and if the work gets done, we're good. And it's fun because that tends to be our values here at Life Guides as well. But these are also some of the insight that we'll bring into the June conversations too, is how do we start helping men realize that it doesn't have to be that way, because just because it's normalized doesn't mean that it's normal or right, right? And Madi Paz says, I was ready to take on Monday, and now I am mad at this reality. Latina working mom here. When Carolyn and I were having this conversation, I kept telling her, I was like, I'm so mad, especially as a Latina. I am mad. But I'm never the type of person that takes anger and makes something good of it. I'm the type of person who takes that anger and transforms it into inspiration and empowerment. So instead of being like, oh, for me, it takes what, 19 months, 21 months to make what a white male would make in 12 months, which I've seen that reality in my world. It's like, cool, what can I do? One, to make my life easier, to make myself happier. And also, what are additional ways that I can start to bridge this gap? Do I not have boundaries? Do I not advocate for my needs? Do I not speak up about the fact that I need significant more income than I'm being offered? Every place almost that I've worked, I've had to fight for my pay, right? I've had to fight for my own levels of equality that I think I'm worth. And it's been a skill that I've developed that has given me a sense of empowerment. And it's put me in a place of realizing, cool, societally, we're a little messed up. But in my own little bubble, I do have control over that. And I can start to change the statistics by being more empowered and requiring what I need or not stepping into those places. So hopefully by the end of the day or the end of the week, Maripas, this ends up being a place of inspiration and empowerment for you, where you can start to see, okay, what can I do to change this? Because we did a Women's History Month panel with a client last week. It was a private event. And one of the things that we talked about is, yeah, there's history that we've experienced. But the day that we live right here, we're also creating history. We are who our future generations are going to look back on and see the change in history. So there comes a level of empowerment from that in seeing that, oh, we play a role in this too. And we can either play a seated role and just let it be what it is, or we can play a little bit of a louder role and be like, you know what? I deserve more, and I'm not afraid to require that of myself and of my life. So hopefully that leads to a little bit of empowerment for you. I feel you, girl. I really do. Carolyn, what do you think often stops women from being authentically themselves?
Reality. Yeah, short answer, reality. Um, Women in the workplace have often felt that we've been relegated to a lower status. And as Kira said, beautifully said, Kira, beautifully said. Looking forward, though, which is really the intent of this talk, what can we do? We have, as women, since like 1965, through determination, talent, resolution, and women helping women, we've made tremendous strides. And I'm proud of that. I am really proud of that. And I appreciate all the women who have put so much effort into tearing down the boundaries, breaking through the glass ceiling. And I'm deeply grateful to the men who have seen how important it is. Women are 50% or 47% of the workplace. That is a lot of talent, expertise, and knowledge that we are minimizing. That's not going to do this country, this world any good. We need to give women's voices more power. And back to what keeps us from being fully authentically ourselves. When I entered the workplace in the 70s, there was really kind of an expectation that women become or behave or produce like men do. We were held to this standard where we felt we had to dress a certain way, we had to present a certain way, we had to be more like men. As the decades have passed, I think women are finding we don't have to be more like men. What we need to do is make the workplace better for women with our unique needs, talents, expectations, and just the reality, to tie that back to the loop, the reality of the situation. It's not fair. It doesn't work well when women are relegated to a lower position. So I think the really and what I am seeing is women becoming more authentic. I'm finding that women are now we are experiencing a time where we see how important it is to be vulnerable, how important it is to work together, and how important it is for us to find our voices, our female voice, and not try to replicate what men bring to the table. The two of us, the two men and women, we have so much combined information and expertise. Let's put it together. Yeah, we've been dividing ourselves. We don't need to do that. We need to find a more collaborative way to work and to raise all boats.
So knowing that we can do this together, obviously, women make up almost half of the workforce. Duh, we make up half of the world, so duh. But it's important that we know that too, that women play such a significant role, but women don't see themselves often as the CEOs or the managers or the directors. There have been companies that I've worked in where I've consciously chosen not to be the CEO or director or manager because I saw what the top of the organization was made of and I didn't want to sit at the same table as them. And these are real things. I'm grateful to be in a different position now, but I had to realize that the positions I was putting myself in were not made for a woman like me. And I wanted to be in places where a woman like me was going to belong and where a woman like me would have a voice. And sometimes some of our own disparity comes from consciously choosing to put ourselves in the wrong rooms. There's a door to let you in. There's also a door that you can very easily walk out of. And that just means that change is a part of life, right? So when women do show up as leaders, why is it our responsibility to show up as leaders and to have that voice in the workplace?
Well, if we're going to make it work, that's the only way. And I feel very strongly. I've been very lucky in my experience to have some very strong women in my life, be it congresswomen, be it CEOs, be it just women who are doing the work on the ground. Um, and I think as women, given the fact that we have been relegated to lower positions because of various situations, it is it should be our opportunity and our pleasure to bring up women. You know, when you're in a room, whose voice is being heard? Pay attention. When you see a young person who is struggling as a new recruit into your business, consider mentoring them. Think of this, this is like a huge power force that just needs a little bit of a boost sometimes. So my feeling is women have a unique opportunity to change public policy, to change work policy. Um, our votes matter. Our voices in the boardroom matter. Our voices within the workplace matter. We need to elevate each other. I think we need to put aside our differences when they are not important and work together to elevate women as a whole. This is going to be good for men, for the workplace, for our daughters, for our sons, for the world. I think this has to happen, Kira.
I
It's
agree.
that time.
I think even for men, it's really unfortunate. I see a lot of angry men out there, and I see a lot of angry men in the workplace. And I also think that's a byproduct of a patriarchy as well, where no one, so many people haven't been given the opportunity to even see or feel what empathy is, to be understood and to be heard, to be looked at in the workplace like you're a person. And for those of you who are on this call, drop 111 in the chat if you're like, I would love to be looked at like I was just a human, not just a worker bee, not just someone who is good for the bottom dollar, not just someone who fills a seat that needs to be filled, but like I'm a person who genuinely matters outside of the work that I do. And it's very interesting because you all know the work I do is helping people in corporate America. You live a healthier, happier, more well-rounded life. The statistics show also that if you have more caring and empathetic leadership in your organization, doesn't matter if it's male or female, but as we learned in the female brain, we default more to that empathy. That is more of a women's biology byproduct. So women have that naturally, but we can teach that. And if we start teaching that, and if women are in leadership positions where we do teach that, then what happens is we have an entire workforce, women and men, that feel like they belong and that want to be there and are going to put in even better work because of that sense of belonging and empowerment. So as we're coming to kind of almost the end of today's conversation, Carolyn, obviously we know that we're still navigating these challenges today. How can we support and empower the women around us to continue to be the byproducts of change for what we want to see. So to not be disempowered by what we see now, but to be empowered for creating the future that we want to see.
I love that. I think that's the whole point, Kira. How can we empower ourselves and each other? And women, traditionally we've been the caregivers, the child rearers, the child bearers, um, totally in charge of the home, totally in charge of the children. I was a caregiver three decades of my life. It's a long time. And then with all of that, trying to hold place in the workplace. So I think I will go back to um, make an effort to be part of the voice that raises women up. There are certain things that women need in the workplace, and we're worth it. We need maternity leave. We need time off for new moms and dads. We need time to have, to be able to be caregivers. But women do not have to carry the whole load. I see a shift. I see men stepping up in the caregiving role, taking care of the children, empowering women to be all they can be. So, as women, my hope is we're going to get a little louder. And as Kira says, advocate for ourselves and our sisters and the workplace and our children and the men in our lives. Advocate for equality. Advocate for women having a voice that's heard. How many times have you heard in the boardroom setting a woman begin to speak and then being shut down? When that happens, consider giving a little pause and giving that woman a way to be heard. I think if we all start noticing, again, who's at the table, who's being heard, whose voices are important, whose voices aren't important, and I'm optimistic. There's a lot of things going on right now that are taking away some of the rights that we women have assumed were our rights. So it's a very difficult time, but difficult times bring opportunity. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. Let's
So
empower each
beautiful.
other.
So beautiful. And I wanted, Carolyn and I talked about one thing, well, I mean, a lot of things that we were planning, but as a closure to this conversation, I wanted to also give you guys a radical example of what some representations of equality can look like. There was a cafe in Australia. It is no longer around, which I'm sad to report, but there was a cafe in Australia that existed for about 2 years, and it was called the Handsome Her Cafe. And this cafe, what they did was they realized that there was a significant gap between men's and women's wages, equal pay, just equality overall. And what they did is they charged a man tax. When men would come into their organization, they would be charged 18% extra to bridge the gender pay divide. Because as we saw, women make around 18% less than men. So this was their way of bridging that gap, and it sparked a global debate. Some people were not happy about it. I read a Reddit thread where there was a dude who was like, I don't understand why they're doing this. And if you don't understand why they're doing this, then you don't understand the societal and structural problems that we have that we're still living with to this day. But there were also a lot of people who were very empowered by that. And there were a lot of men who consciously chose to frequent that organization because they understood the not the privilege that they chose, but the privilege that they were just born into. And they were happy to support an organization that empowered women and brought equality to the forefront. This is not a conversation that is an easy one. Obviously, it makes us mad. It makes us think about a lot of different things, but it is an important conversation, especially if we want to make change in the world. And there are radical ways that we can do it. We can open a cafe and charge an 18% tax. We can step into a boardroom that we never thought we belonged in, and we can choose to belong in it because we realize that we look different from everyone else, which means that there's a chance that our voice might be different and that that might be something that needs to be heard. So we could go on and on. But we really wanted to give you all some food for thought, especially as we are coming up this week on the day that starts to represent equals women's pay for this year in regards to what men made in just 12 months last year. So thank you all so much for being here. Happy Motivational Monday. We do have the deep dive next, actually this Wednesday, where we're diving deeper into women's well-being and having the deeper conversations, kind of even more into history of how did we get to where we are and how can we start moving forward as well? So I just dropped that link in the chat for you all to register. Thank you all so much for being here, and we will see you on Wednesday for the deep dive and then next Monday for our last Motivational Monday of Women's Wellbeing Month. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll talk to you soon.